of their borders. Israel's been around since 1948. They've only been surrounded by enemies. Jordan waged war against them many times. Lately, they've been a coldish enemy, a quiet one. Egypt, they've had a peace accord since 1978, but nonetheless, it's been described as a cold peace. There's routine rocket fire between Hezbollah taking over Lebanon and occasionally with Syria, and not to mention, of course, with Gaza itself, and the West Bank. So Israel is this little Jewish enclave of people that want to be a Jewish state. Imagine for them an existence that would have the United States, their best friend, some say their only good friend, on one of their borders. It would be an astounding turn of events for them. It would make them feel free and safe and everything wonderful. But think about from the point of view of the people in Gaza, and we really don't know a lot of their points of view. We know that Hamas, which was elected by them, chosen by them, which is a terrorist organization, uses the regular civilian population as pawns. But what is their quest? We keep hearing president after president after president. One of the things that CNN kept broadcasting last night as to show such a dramatic contrast between President Trump and predecessors was George W. Bush, President Obama, Biden, all saying that they were committed to a two-state solution, and they parrot this idea of being side by side in peace and security, side by side in peace and security. And it occurred to me this morning that the Americans would like to see side by side in peace and security, but you haven't heard anybody from Gaza say that they want a two-state solution, side by side peace and security. Have you heard any of the leaders ever of Gaza say that they want to be side-by-side peace and security? You occasionally hear Arab Americans in this country say that. Okay. But what about the people that determine their own destiny there? So they're not thinking about side-by-side peace and security. They're still committed to brainwashing generation after generation of their young people to the fact that Israel doesn't belong there. Israel is an illegitimate entity altogether. And what they want to do is they want to take over Israel. Okay, that's what they want to do. They want to expand Gaza, expand the West Bank back, eradicate those borders, and throw the Jews out. They've been very, very clear. So I think it's a bit of a pipe dream for Americans to keep saying two-state solution, side-by-side peace and security. However, this is the other part. You know, Trump is very famous, and by now we should be on to it, of tremendously shocking announcements that disrupt people terribly, that end up being worst-case scenario, that he then can walk back on and declare a victory of sorts. And I'll give you an example. Very recently, and you can get whiplash from all of this, but look at the tariff situation. Just look at that. He announces 25% tariffs against Mexico. Do you see a 25% tariff against Mexico? There is none. What he extracted from Claudia Sheinbaum, the brand new president of Mexico, was 10,000 Mexican troops on the border, which the United States could always use. It shouldn't only be our guys guarding the border. It should also be Mexico guarding the border. So now he's extracted from walking away from that threat 10,000 border guards, which hopefully will substantially reduce the importation of fentanyl into this country. Let's hope so. Not to mention the people that are crossing the border illegally. But let's just talk about the fentanyl trade, which has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans each year. So he announces, he did the same thing with Canada. Announced 25% against tariff. There's no tariff against Canada. He announces it for one day. He extracts concessions from Justin Trudeau, which he did. Again, more border security, different things he wants. And then he declares victory without having to do much, except that he's willing, he's a very ballsy guy, and he's willing to disrupt what people consider the status quo. So last night, he has a press conference. And boy, is it a doozy. I mean, of press conferences rocking the world. What do you mean the United States is going to own Gaza? Are we really going to send U.S. troops? They're going to be killed by Hamas. You think Hamas is going to care what uniform they're wearing? And the first time that we have to cry as a country for a soldier that dies in the Middle East to defend Israel, you think that's going to be a good day in America? It's going to be a terrible day in America. Israel doesn't want that either. They've never wanted that. Go back to the history of David Ben-Gurion and Golda Meir. They have never wanted an American soldier to set foot in the Middle East. Are you kidding me? They've got their own IDF. They're not interested. They don't want anybody else to risk their life and limb. But what does it mean if the United States says we're going to own Gaza? Then we're going to what? Defend Gaza? Take over Gaza? Colonialize Gaza? What is that? What does it really look like? And how scary would it be for many people in the Arab world? So you know what? He makes this big announcement, worst case scenario. And if you're somebody right now in the Arab world, maybe you're thinking, you know what? He's just ballsy enough, he might do it. So maybe I should consider a two-state solution. Maybe I should get real about the fact that Israel isn't going anywhere and get real about peace and return the hostages. Maybe I should just get real. Because that is what Donald Trump does. He announces this big, unimaginable worst-case scenario for people on the other side of a dispute or conflict. They consider that for a minute, and then maybe they concede. 203-333-9422. Anyway, that's what's happening in the big world with, and don't ask me what Jewish people think about this, because we have a saying among Jewish people, which is 2 Jews, 3 opinions. Okay? We got a lot of people on a lot of different sides of this who have a lot of educated, intelligent things to say about it. But believe me when I tell you, nobody can speak with one voice for certain people. Now, I've asked CBS correspondent to call in from Jerusalem in the next hour. I haven't yet heard whether we're going to get one of our correspondents on CBS from Jerusalem, but we're going to try. In the meantime, coming right up is Vicky Volper. Vicky Volper is in Hartford this morning with a group of dozens of other people who are saying, we are not happy. We are not happy with what Donald Trump has been doing. We insist that our democratically elected, but also Democrat Party representatives do a better job at resisting, at fighting, at opposing some of these draconian actions of President Trump. And one of the leaders of that, Vicky Volper, will be on in just a moment to talk about her advocacy in Hartford right now at 203-333-9422. We'll be right back.
You can't always listen to every moment of your favorite WICC shows on your radio, but you can always get caught up with our daily podcasts. Did you miss your local leaders on Melissa in the Morning? Or that breaking news on Connecticut Today with Paul Pacelli? The podcast has it all. Download, like, and subscribe. It's easy, free, and on demand. Listen at voiceofct.com or just search the Voice of Connecticut wherever you get your podcasts.
Your business or service can reach thousands of listeners with The Lisa Wexler Show. Lisa's listeners are devoted and loyal. They should know how great your business is. Advertise on The Lisa Wexler Show. Lisa will work with you directly to craft a message that resonates with listeners, plus you'll get introduced to the members of The Lisa Wexler Show family. Advertise on The Lisa Wexler Show. Just email Lisa at voiceofct.com. That's Lisa at voiceofct.com.
Selling your home is a numbers game. The more potential buyers who see it, the greater the opportunity to sell. And when your home is listed on Smart MLS, more than 21,000 realtors see it, and so do all their buyers. Suddenly, the number of people looking at your home starts to grow by a lot. More realtors sharing your listing, more people seeing your home, more offers coming in, and maybe even more cash in your pocket. Smart move, right? Ask your realtor. Is my house on Smart MLS? Smart MLS, the smart way to sell your home.
WICC 600 and 95.9. Online at thevoiceofct.com. Thanks to Fairfield University graduate and professional studies.
Let Southern Connecticut know what you're thinking. 203-333-9422. It's the Lisa Wexler Show on WICC 600 and 95.9, the Voice of Connecticut.
Also, for the first time in a very long time, we are live on Twitch and YouTube, which means if you want to play with seeing us on a screen, as well as hearing us, of course, on WICC, you can do it. We are bringing you this broadcast in multidimensional ways. You can call me at 203-333-9422. Joining us now is Vicki Volper, who has been part of a group who've called themselves the Resistors. They were very active from 2016 to 2020. They are very opposed politically to the political agenda of the Trump administration. They continue to be opposed. And with so many of the very dramatic things, for example, last night, we heard that the latest edict coming out of the Trump administration was that everybody in the CIA got their form of a pink slip. Similar to what happened at the beginning of last week, with other administrations, they have been offered a buyout, a very generous buyout, which it is not clear legally they're entitled to offer. Because under the law, as I've read it, the federal government can only pay you for 10 days of administrative leave. They seem to have ignored that, at least for now, the Trump administration. And they're offering every single employee of the CIA a buyout through September of paid leave if they want to leave. If they don't want to leave, their alternative is they have to come into work every day. That's my understanding. Vicki Volper joins us now because she and dozens of other people, of other like-minded people, are in Hartford for advocacy today. She's going to tell us all about it. Hi, Vicki. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Lisa. Thanks for inviting me to join you. It actually is, I think, close to 100 people coming to Hartford today. And this is something that's going on nationally. This was organized originally by Indivisible, which gave activists throughout the country in different states, the opportunity to use their toolkit to create these rallies. And so we are doing the one in Connecticut, Resistors, along with Connecticut Shoreline Indivisible and several other activist groups.
Okay, and are you, as we speak now, are you on your way to Hartford? Are you in Hartford?
About to get in the car, so I'm only going to speak to you briefly.
Okay.
I'm about to get in the car to go up there and to meet with my crew. And we are going first to Senator Blumenthal's office, and then we are going afterwards to Senator Murphy's office, and their staff, they're not there, but their staff is expecting us and welcomes us there.
And what do you hope to accomplish today, Vicki?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, it's rallying the troops. First of all, it's talking to, the activists about what's at stake and what they need to do, and encouraging them to be calling their senators and their House members and their local representatives every day, insisting upon town halls to be kept appraised of what's going on, and also making their asks every day. People may not realize, they may think it's a waste of time to call about the same candidate or the same issue every day, but the aides who take those calls have a sheet where they keep a tally of how many people call on an issue. They don't take down if the same person is calling. It's a numbers game. And it helps our representatives and our senators to be able to say, well, I got 1,000 calls today from my constituents about this. This really matters to my constituents. So it helps them. It helps us. And we want to encourage that. We also are going up there to thank our senators for the work that they've done to date. Let's face it, we've got terrific senators. We're very lucky. They are very experienced. They have good hearts, and they are tirelessly working for us. However, we also have an ask. We want them to be a little bit tougher. In the past few days, we've seen Democratic senators voting to confirm Republican nominees for Trump's cabinet. And it's not clear to me why on earth they are doing that. If the Republicans want to forfeit their power to advise and consent on these candidates, that's fine if the Republicans want to do that. I'm just not understanding why the Democrats would do it. I don't understand why, if they think they're getting political capital, if they're getting something. I can't imagine what they are getting out of it, and it's very disturbing. And so,
well, Vicki, let me just back up for a moment.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that every single one of the cabinet appointees that President Trump has offered up is somebody that should be rejected?
yes.
Why?
Why? Because the idea is to show that we are a unified force, that the Democrats, this is what the Republicans do all the time. I mean, take a page from Mitch McConnell's book, gum up the works, slow things down, always say no. Why are we playing by the old school rules when we're in the middle of a coup? These are not normal times. The Democrats have to show strength by being unified.
So from your point of view, it's not so I see. So you're taking a page out of what Mitch McConnell did, which was he basically, if it was proposed by a Democrat, he would say no.
Yep.
End of story. And you think the Democrats ought to play the same way?
Yeah, I do. Unless they could show me that they're getting some political capital or some benefit by doing it the other way. And the reality is, look, a lot of them are completely incompetent. I mean, the fact that people voted, and one Democratic senator, I believe it was Fetterman, voted yes for Bondi, who is an election denier and a conspiracy theorist, and I just don't understand what he was thinking. And I knocked doors for that man. I'm a little distressed about this. But even Collins, who was voted on yesterday or the day before for the Veterans Affairs, he may be on paper qualified, but I understand when he was in office in the first Trump administration, was not an easy person to work with and was obnoxious. It's not like he was so stellar that we just can't lose this guy, So, I think the answer is, and what the instructions we're getting from indivisible leadership is to follow the Mitch McConnell playbook. Gum up the work, slow things down, use every lever of power in Congress to control what we can control.
Okay. So, because, and do you have any issues specifically? For example, we had 2 out of 5 Congress people in Connecticut, I believe it was Johanna Hayes and Joe Courtney, that voted for the Lake and Riley Act, which, let me just tell our audience, the Lake and Riley Act was an act that said that if somebody who is undocumented and here is picked up, arrested, not necessarily convicted, but arrested for a crime, including the crime of theft, then they can be deported.
Right.
And we had 3.
No due process.
Yeah. Well, well, the argument is that due process is not the same for people that are already illegally here. That's the argument.
Right.
Anyway, so are you upset about that vote, for example?
I'm very upset about that vote. And frankly, I knocked on doors for Johanna Hayes week after week after week because I wanted to keep that seat Democratic. And to what end? If she's not going to vote with the Democrats, I don't understand. I mean, I understand she's in a red district, and perhaps the majority of her constituents would prefer that. But the Republicans never would do that. They would never vote with the Democrats, for that reason. I just don't understand why Courtney and Hayes voted for the Lake and Riley Act. It's cruel. It's a cruel, inhumane act.
Is there anything that Trump is doing in the way substantively of policy that the resistors do not have a problem with at this point?
I can't think of anything at the moment. And by the way, I wanted to just touch on, you mentioned earlier the negotiation style that he has.
Yeah.
That, with Mexico.
Yeah.
He can come away saying he had a win. I could be wrong about this, but my understanding is the 10,000 troops that he agreed to have Mexico put at the border, Biden had already negotiated that. This was not additional troops. This was just reinstating what Biden had already negotiated before.
I'll have to look it up, Vicki. I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah, please check that because that was what I read.
Okay. Could be. It could be. But he does have this grandiose, exaggerated way of putting down these enormous threats and edicts, and then he walks them back all the time. Like this morning with the post office was another example. And I don't know that it was directly Trump or someone working for Trump, but I know people that woke up this morning and said, what do you mean? I'm not getting my Temu package? What do you mean? What do you mean? And then before you turn around, oh, no, it's okay. It's
yeah. Well, you know what? A lot of the things that are turning around also illustrate the power of activists because there was such an outcry, about USAID and about the freezing of the funds. You spoke very eloquently a couple of weeks ago. I listened to you talking about the impoundment of funds and how it violated the 1974 Impoundment Act.
Yep.
And look, there was enough outcry. He pulled it back. His press secretary is saying, "Oh no, it's really happening," but it's not really happening. At least not right now.
Right.
So he does tend. It's smoke and mirrors, and it's a whole macho negotiating style. But he's still doing damage. And you know what it is? It's the fire hose of crap that is coming at us all at once. It's creating chaos and, a sense of lack of control and concern about the cruelty. And in reality, the chaos and the cruelty are the point. The reason they're coming out with all guns at one time is to try to make citizens of this country feel that it's so chaotic and so cruel and so overwhelming that we just go back to playing Scrabble and doing our needlepoint and look away because we can't handle it. But you know what? Americans are stronger than that, and we're not going to look away. We're going to keep fighting because so far we've had success in the courts, we've had success in public opinion, and we have our work cut out for us.
All right, Vicki, we've got a question from Joanne from Bridgeport. Joanne, you're on the line with Vicki Volper, who will be on her way to Hartford soon.
1 minute.
Okay, yes, in 1 minute. Hello, Joanne from Bridgeport.
Hi,
Go ahead.
Vicki. Thank you for taking my question. As a citizen and a fellow citizen, I'm not in agreement with half of the things you say, only because Mr. Biden did exactly what Mr. Trump did, and there was no outcry. I'm trying to live in a country where we were civil to each other, regardless what your political party, persuasion, race, ethnicity, religion. I'm trying to get us back to that, and I'm prayerful and mindful to do that. To say Democrats are doing it or Republicans, if Mitch McConnell did that, be the bigger person and don't do what Mitch McConnell did. Do something better that we can work with the other people to make it better for all citizens. And an act that would deport a person who came in and committed a crime without due process is a valid act. Every president before Mr. Trump did that. They didn't need permission because that person was not a citizen or legal alien here to have the right to due process. That's all I'm asking you, to keep those things in mind. Thank you for listening to my concerns.
Thank you, Joanne. Vicki, I'm going to let you have the last word. I know you're running. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do need to run. What I would say to Joanne is I respect her opinion. However, we're in the middle of a coup. It is a 5-alarm fire, and I think we need to take the gloves off. And with that, I'm going to be leaving now. And thank you, Lisa. Talk to you soon.
Sure. Vicki Volper on the way to Hartford to fight her good fight. We'll be right back with more of the Lisa Wexler Show. Your comments are welcome at 203-333-9422. We'll be right back.
The Lisa Wexler Show podcast is available 24/7. Follow wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Let's face it, home maintenance is exhausting. Renovations, repairs, and building projects are worse. Who do you call? Who can you trust? Renowned home builder David Dahl and his trusted team at Total Home Management is the solution. They take the stress out of home ownership. Every home, every client is different. Total Home Management offers custom annual home maintenance programs, which include handyman service hours to simplify your life. Not only does Total Home Management handle preventative maintenance, upkeep, and repairs, David Dahl and his team of experts have been tackling the most complex renovations, new construction, and historic restorations in Lower Fairfield County for over 38 years. Total Home Management is your one-call, one-stop solution for all your home projects. From inside your home to anything around your property, Total Home Management is here. Visit our website, www.totalhomemanagementllc.net. That's totalhomemanagementllc.net. Or call 203-962-5494. Simplify your life. We'll handle your home.
Touchdowns, goals, spikes. What was this week's Play of the Week in local high school sports? Check out the High School Sports Play of the Week at therudinreport.com. See and subscribe. Powered by the new Genesis of Ridgefield, located in Norwalk.
And starting tonight at 5'9", hailing out of Waterbury, Connecticut, 10-time Player of the Week, the Sultan of Scratch, Ricky Davis. Become a legend in the basketball capital of the world. Play the UConn Championship Cash Scratch ticket from the Connecticut Lottery today. Your team, your ticket, and just maybe your $50K top prize. Overall odds 1 in 3.54. Must be 18 or older. Problem gambling helpline. Call 888-789-7777.
With Win Waste Innovations, you can turn your trash into renewable energy that powers your community. Win Waste offers waste and recycling solutions for your business, home, or construction needs. Discover the difference at win-waste.com or call 866-WIN-WASTE.
If it's on your mind, it's already on hers. The Lisa Wexler Show, WICC 695.9, the voice of Connecticut.
Welcome back to the show. CNN did a big article on dark skies. And I just want to say that we have been on top of this issue for such a long time. We're going to get more experts on here and there. But I want you to recognize something. 80% of people in North America looking up now can no longer see the Milky Way. 80%, 8 out of 10 people. 1/3 worldwide can't see it on any given day, but 80% of people in our continent can't see it. And the reason for that is that we have too much light at night. And I want us to be mindful of that. I know if you're listening to this show that you're an active citizen. By definition, you don't listen to news talk unless you really care about what's happening in the world. And that means you have influence in your own community. And that means, as we're thinking about planning and zoning regulations and this new building that's going up on the corner, and whether or not we should dampen our streetlights because we really don't need them from, I don't know, midnight to 5, something like that, because we have headlights. We should really be thinking about retrieving our dark skies. I call it Bring Back the Stars. I would rather rename the movement Bring Back Our Stars, Bring Back the Stars, Bring Us Our Stars, something with stars in it. Because somehow dark sky sounds dark, but Bring Back the Stars maybe has a literally a lightning, leavening influence. But I wanted you to know that CNN did this big report on it because it is starting to gather steam nationally, and little pockets of places in Colorado and Oregon, different places, communities, small towns are recognizing, and it was a great story. It was a story about a small town in Colorado that ran out of money, and it didn't have enough money to light the street lights at night, so they turned them off. And after they turned them off, everybody realized they could see the stars and they could see the Milky Way. So when they had money again, they said, you know what? We've done okay. We haven't had car accidents as a result of no street lights, but we can see our stars again. So they kept the lights off. So they became a dark sky community. And I just want you to be thinking about that because it's on my mind. 203-333-9422. In the next hour, we are going to be joined by a CBS correspondent from Jerusalem. We'll hear about how President Trump's speech is going down there from the point of view of a correspondent who's trying to take all different points of view. And Wayne Winston will join us at 11:30 as well in studio. In the meantime, in Hartford, the plight of our utilities, which, by the way, is related to dark skies, if you think about it. I mean, the reason that we need so much power, one of them is because we don't conserve terribly well. And that's just a fact. We don't conserve terribly well. And there is a lot of wrangling going on right now with Pura Chair Marissa Gillette being at the center of controversy. And there are a lot of different things being floated, but the heat, the pressure seems to be on Pura to defend itself. One of the things that is being proposed in Hartford is a bill that would take the amount of commissioners down from 5 to 3. And that is something that the utilities are opposing. The other thing that is going down is that there is this controversy about whether or not Marissa Gillette signed her name to many, many different decisions, which she argues are ministerial. But the utilities are arguing that some of them are substantive without the kind of full hearing and ability to represent themselves that the utilities argue that they're entitled to. So, and that, by the way, is going to be heard by a judge. We'll have to see what happens with that. But it's Sticky Wickets, the Energy and Technology Committee led by Jonathan Steinberg, who was on our show just a couple of days ago, is hearing everything. And I just wanted you to know that, you know, the fate of your utility bill may be at stake. Stephen Harding, one of the leaders of the Republicans, says that he's introduced a bill that could save us as utility payers, as ratepayers, as much as $1,000 a year. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. In other words, I don't actually know the details of it. But we'll have the people on to tell you about it. This is just making its way through right now. But I wanted to alert you about that. The other thing that's making its way through, we have talked at length about Prospect Hospital Holdings and the healthcare industry being invaded by private equity. And it isn't just hospitals. It's individual doctor practices. It's also individual veterinary practices, but people don't seem to be looking at that yet. But they are looking because of this cascading calamity of the 3 for-profit hospitals that essentially at one time were each community hospitals before they were rolled into this one entity. One of them in Rockville started as early as 1921 with people in the community raising money for the land underneath the community hospital. And it functioned that way for decades. And it probably lost money. And it probably had a lot of different local fundraisers for it and was a pet charity of a lot of local philanthropists in Rockville. But it helped the people of Rockville. But you know what happened with healthcare. Healthcare's been a disaster in this country. It's a disaster of consolidation and greed and scarcity and all kind of things. And in the meantime, not very helpful, deliverable outcomes. We're not living longer and better as a measurable reality. But in Connecticut, the Rockville, Waterbury, and there's a third one, three hospitals became rolled up and they became owned by this company called Prospect. And what Prospect did is they got owned by a private equity company. And in what could only be a wet dream of a financier in private equity, they said to themselves, well, we've got a balance sheet here that looks like we have assets that have no liabilities attached to them, but we can't draw any money out of them because they are, in fact, the land underneath the hospital itself. And even though that land is worth money in a theoretical sense, we can't sell it because then we wouldn't have a hospital. And we can't extract money for it because it's land. It doesn't earn any income. So why don't we have the hospital pay rent? Why don't we take the money out, extract the equity underneath the hospital building, the land, and we'll put a mortgage on the hospital. And we'll extract an immediate amount of cash, and we'll get ourselves out of this hole because the hospital's losing money. Now, all of that may have sounded really good to somebody and might have actually worked if they weren't terribly greedy. But the people at the top of this food chain were incredibly greedy. And they said, for our brilliance in thinking about this scheme, we're entitled to a really big cut off the top. Hundreds of millions of dollars off the top. So maybe it was $1 billion deal and they took the first $400 million. They left maybe $600 million in there for operating capital, but it wasn't enough. But the $400 million they managed to stow away among a few people, just a few people. And they said to themselves, well, a regular bank isn't going to finance this. A regular bank may raise their eyebrows over their head and say, what are you doing to this local hospital? Why are you creating a debt where there never was one? So they created these beautiful private equity financiers. They figured out, what about having a trust corporation be our lender? Their sole purpose is going to lend to hospitals. And we'll make sure they're well funded. And then we'll make sure they're paid back with plenty of interest. So in the end, what they did is they encumbered, fancy legal word, but they encumbered these hospitals with debt that didn't exist before they walked in. And lo and behold, the hospital sank deeper and deeper in debt until it eventually had to file for bankruptcy. At which point, when it filed for bankruptcy, the judge said, I don't think we're going to keep paying that lease to that trust corporation. And the private equity people went, ouch, ouch, but not ouch too much because they had already taken their money years ago. And all of this, thanks to very wonderful reporting, became known. So in Hartford, the people are paying attention, and they have already proposed a number of bills to try and target private equity investment going in the future in healthcare. Now, these bills are publicly backed by Governor Lamont as well as Deirdre Gifford, the commissioner of Connecticut's Office of Health Strategy. And the note here is that these bills are largely statements of intent rather than fully drafted bills, which means they may not get passed at all. But they are expressions of what the legislature thinks about further private equity investment in healthcare. Bill 261, B261, would restrict private equity firms from buying, operating, or holding a controlling interest in hospitals, including but not limited to leasing property back to hospitals for a fee after acquiring land rights, making it frankly illegal to do what was done with Prospect. Just basically describing that transaction and saying you can't do it again. Bill 469 would impose restrictions on private equity firms' acquisition of hospitals in the first place and prohibit hospitals from participating in real estate investment trust transactions, which is what Prospect did, but also establish physician-led ownership requirements for medical groups and ambulatory surgical centers, because that's also been a problem. Private equity is seeping into other healthcare providers. Bill 837 would, among other things, amend an existing statute to impose additional disclosure requirements for group practices if they want to acquire or merge with other ones. And Bill 6570 would prohibit private equity firms from acquiring ownership or control of a healthcare provider's practice or healthcare facility. And it would also require them to disclose the ownership structure to a unit of the state. So we'll see what happens with that, but I'm paying close attention. All right, Terry from Bridgeport. Hi, Terry. You're on the air. Go ahead, please. What's
Morning,
your comment
sweetie.
today? Hi.
My father used to have a cabin up in Hillsborough, New Hampshire, and it was on a lake. And at night, you saw stars that you didn't even know existed.
Wow. Wow.
I loved it. I really did.
Yeah.
The
Well,
lake
you know
was
what?
about 3
Here's the
miles
thing,
around.
Terry. You know what, Terry? Those stars are actually still there. And when's the last time you were able to see them?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
You don't see them down here.
No.
You don't see them down here at all.
You barely see the North Star. Sometimes I have to look for it. I know. I know.
And it's sad.
It's really sad. It's sad because
These
a lot
kids,
of the
if they
lighting is
saw that-
unnecessary. Some lighting at night is going to be necessary. We know that. But the amount of lighting that we've put into the night skies is unnecessary. It's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If these kids saw that,
Yeah.
they'd say, "Oh my God, wow!"
Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. That's right.
I would sit on the deck and just look.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, very few places on the planet, almost very few in North America, can anybody see it. Only 20% of people can see the Milky Way in North America. And North America is Canada, for goodness sakes.
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
sad.
Very sad. Yeah.
But have a good day, honey.
Thanks, Terry. I'm glad you pay attention to it, too. It's very meaningful to me. You know, if there's one thing that I would like to be able to do behind the microphone, it's to make a difference. And our slogan on the show is changing the world one conversation at a time. Well, how do you change the world one conversation at a time? Like, what does that even mean? But what it really means is if I speak to you and then you say, oh, that's an idea that I could get behind. That's an idea that has some merit. I think I'm going to tell my friend about that idea. Have you noticed? When's the last time you've been able to see the Milky Way? And all of a sudden, just like that, public policy starts to shift and change. And it starts with one conversation because it has to start with that. It has to start with talking, being knowledgeable and aware, and then it translates into action. I'm Lisa Wexler. We'll be right back. You can call me at 203-333-9422. I'm going to continue to report on what's going on in Hartford. Stick around.
To listen to the Lisa Wexler Show podcast, just search and subscribe in your favorite podcast app.
A.G. Williams Painting. A.G. Williams Painting. The people you trust to do the job right.
Imagine your house perfectly painted. Fresh colors, clean lines, looking better than ever. And now imagine a painting experience that's just as good. We're talking friendly painters, easy communication, and never feeling in the dark. With A.G. Williams Painting, you don't have to imagine it.
A.G. Williams Painting. The people you trust to do the job right.
A.G. Williams Painting has been painting in your neighborhood since 1906, and they know how to do it right. You'll love their team, too. A.G. Williams Painting has career craftspeople who are totally dedicated to their work and invested in your project. That means peace of mind and a paint job you can be proud of.
A.G. Williams Painting. A.G. Williams Painting. The people you trust to do the job right.
This is an ad by BetterHelp Online Therapy. When it comes to relationships, we often hear about the red flags we should avoid, but it's just as important to focus on the green flags. Think about how you want a relationship to feel, one where your boundaries are respected and you're encouraged to be your best self. If you're not sure what that looks like, therapy can help you identify those qualities so you can embody the green flag energy yourself and find it in others. Because whether you're dating, married, or building a friendship, it's time to form relationships that love you back. BetterHelp connects you to a diverse network of over 30,000 therapists worldwide with expertise in a wide range of issues, from depression and anxiety to work and relationships. It's 100% online and sign up only takes a few minutes. Find your green flag energy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/ABC Radio today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ABC Radio.
Back to the news and talk. Thanks to Smart MLS. Smart sellers ask, is my home on Smart MLS? The voice of Connecticut. WICC 695.9. It's the Lisa Wexler Show.
We're going to hear from a CBS correspondent at 11:15 direct from Jerusalem about how President Trump's floating of the idea of taking over Gaza is going over there. And I would imagine that there's all kind of opinions that are happening there. I thought that on CNN last night, I thought one of the gals who identifies herself as a Palestinian American, or maybe, anyway, she said she was Palestinian, maybe not American, but I think Palestinian American. She, I thought she was going to go apoplectic last night, really, in a group, in one of these roundtable discussions on CNN. She was practically crying, and she couldn't get the words out fast enough. And one of the other people on the panel, who's the token Republican, really wasn't having it because he kept saying to her, what happened on October 7th, what happened on October 7th? And she really wouldn't address what happened on October 7th. Finally, she said, that it was an atrocity. And he was like, it was very heated. Let's put it that way. 203-333-9422. So there's a lot of news to keep up with news-wise. And it's a little bit of a ricochet, and it's a little bit of a whiplash because to some extent, some of the announcements are made and then they're walked back. So this morning, if you heard that the U.S. Postal Service was not going to be delivering your Temu package or your Shine package, these are two very big companies that do a lot of business from China, it's because there's an exemption of anything that you buy under $800 has been historically free from any imposition of tariffs. And so, although President Trump unilaterally announced a 10% tariff against China, it was thought that many of these, nickel and dime kind of thing, not expensive purchases would still go forward without tariffs. But then apparently the U.S. Postal Service said, I'm not sure that that exemption applies. And so they made an announcement that they were not going to deliver packages from these entities in China, which caused great consternation. And so I understand that the Trump administration and the post office walked it back already this morning. They announce it. They realize the public is opposed to it and says, holy cow, what are you doing to me? I paid for that. I want it. What are you doing to me? And so then they stopped. So now it looks like you are going to get your Temu wrinkles and frownies, different package for your birthday party. Do you know what Temu is? T-E-M-U. Do you know what I'm talking about? Temu is a competitor of Amazon that in many cases is much cheaper than Amazon. And it is a website that if you buy one thing on it, and I bought one thing on it, it bombards you every 5 minutes to buy more, and it has these circles and games and crazinesses. They don't let you alone. They don't let you live. If you live on screen, if you live online. 203-333-9422. But listen, if you want to pay less for something, and there are many people who will shop and get the cheapest price, end of story. That's why Amazon stays in business. Temu is a very, very prized site that undercuts a lot of prices. And so people were freaking out. They were just freaking out. Okay, here in Connecticut, going back to Bridgeport schools, it was disclosed that Carmela Levy-David got just over $140,000 as part of a severance deal. And this, of course, in the context of a district that has an over $30 million deficit. But it's really not surprising that she got some kind of a payout. After all, they did let her go, and she was in the middle of her contract. And most people that have an employment contract have a severance attached to it, where if you let them go before their contract is over, you have to pay them some money. I really don't think it's, I really don't think it's that surprising. She relocated from Texas. She brought her child to enroll in the Bridgeport Public Schools. She brought her husband here. She had a base salary of $250,000 for a 3-year contract, which is very, very low compared to superintendents in Connecticut that have school districts of much smaller size. The top paying person, the person who is the top paid employee in Westport, Connecticut, Tom Scarice, has a base pay of well over $300,000, and is the top person employed by the town by far, and has far fewer kids, and I would argue far fewer problems because it's far fewer kids than Bridgeport. But anyway, her base pay started at $250,000, but then that was in July of 2023. But the city personnel office says that in fact she got paid $320,000. Oh, that's because she received one half of the $140,000 separation payment. Anyway, the fact of the matter is Bridgeport has to grapple with what to do next. In the hearing of the Planning and Development Committee that we have been speaking about, which ran a whopping 13 hours and was chaired by State Representative Eleni Kavros-DeGraw, representing Avon and Canton, talking about the Work-Live-Ride bill, and otherwise known by a lot of people as the Transit Bill, the TOD bill, Transit-Oriented Development Bill. Ms. Kavros-DeGraw is co-chair of the Planning and Development Committee. 104 people signed up to speak. Each were allotted 3 minutes. And at some point, somebody commented that Greenwich was dominating the conversation. Greenwich has 4 train stations, 4. And they feel, and they argue, and Sam Romeo, who has been head of the housing development, the housing committee, the housing authority in Greenwich for many years, he specified how much affordable housing he had built, which is in the hundreds, if not thousands. And he felt that this bill was taking the agency from local communities and putting it into the state. And he felt that, and other people felt that was the wrong way to set state policy. At some point, people said that Greenwich was dominating the conversation too much. But, hidden within this very detailed report of what the committee was talking about, Sam Romeo said, in recent years, the Housing Authority in Greenwich has renovated every single one of the 1,250 units in their inventory, also constructing over 40 brand new units and purchasing over 25 multifamily homes, investing $170 million. This is Greenwich alone. And with plans on the drawing board to build another 350 units. And so what he objected to was that there would be a new Office of Responsible Growth called ORG, in which the head of that was already referred to as a czar. And Representative DeGraw said the czar would accurately be described as a czarina with a scepter who would be deciding things. What kind of things for your local community would somebody in Hartford be deciding? That person would not be elected by your community. That person would not be appointed by the mayor or first selectman of your community. That person is a Hartford person. And people are very concerned about this proposed bill because there are no public hearings, no due process, a loss of local control for certain buildings that are built within a transit-oriented district. And some people push back and said, well, it's voluntary, but others said it's not so voluntary because the state is threatening a very big stick. If you don't opt into this TOD situation, then you are in effect opting out of getting state funds to do other things in your town that may be sorely needed. And so people feel it's really an unfair ask that's being asked of them. So in any event, a lot of testimony going on. You can go on the site itself, on the government site, and see the testimony. You can always read the written testimony that happened in any particular committee. You could also go on ct169strong.org and see their explanation of the bill and why they're opposed to it. People describing it as a stick on a stick and not a carrot. And Pete Harrison testified from Desegregate Connecticut. This issue of building and affordable housing and who should decide it continues to come up every single session. And because there is a well-funded, well-paid lobby called Desegregate Connecticut that continues to, in a very professional manner, put these bills so that they're ready to go in front of the legislature on day one. And this is day one. You know, this is only the beginning of February. And they are already doing a hearing on this. And if it comes out of committee, you know, you've got a majority of Democrats, a supermajority of Democrats. The Republicans may oppose it, but they may just not have the votes. 203-333-9422 is our number. In the next hour, we're going to hear directly from Jerusalem with the CBS correspondent about the earthquake that Trump's announcement last night caused.
WICC Bridgeport, WFOX Southport, WEBE HD2 Westport, WPLR HD2 New Haven, locally owned by Connoisseur Media.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Steve Kathan. Arab nations have condemned it. The Trump proposal for the U.S. to take control of the Gaza Strip and move 2 million Palestinians to other countries. National Security Advisor Matt Waltz defended it on CBS Mornings.
Nobody has a realistic solution, and he puts some very bold, fresh, new ideas out on the table. It's going to bring the entire region to come with their own solutions.
CBS's Olivia Rinaldi on some of the reaction from the Middle East.
Egypt's foreign ministry last night stressed the need for rebuilding Gaza without moving Palestinians out of the country. Saudi Arabia, one of our most important allies, they released a statement last night, a very strongly worded statement, that called for an independent Palestinian state and said it would be a firm, steadfast, and unwavering position.
The U.S. Postal Service has reversed course. CBS's Cammie McCormick reports it now says it will continue accepting inbound packages from China and Hong Kong.
The Postal Service had suspended accepting packages. It now says it is working closely with Customs and Border Protection to come up with a plan for collecting the new tariffs on China to ensure the least disruption. Private shipping companies like FedEx will also have to adjust to the new rules. Low-value parcels from China had been exempt from tariffs.
We're just in from New Albany, Ohio. Police say the suspect they had been looking for in a mass shooting has been arrested. An employee of a cosmetics warehouse where the shooting took place. One person was killed, 5 others wounded. On the Health Watch, CBS's Allison Keyes tells us new information suggests very few people around the globe are getting effective treatment for mental health or substance abuse issues.
Research shows that just 7 out of 100 people in 21 countries receive effective treatment for substance abuse or mental health disorders. The University of British Columbia and Harvard Medical School looked at survey data from nearly 57,000 people collected over a 19-year period. The biggest barrier to treatment is that people don't recognize the need for it.
Police in Greencastle, Pennsylvania, investigating the theft of about 100,000 eggs from the back of a distribution trailer. They're worth an estimated $40,000. This man lives not far away.
Makes me feel like I need to protect my family more, you know. There's a lot of crazy things going on in the world these days, and just pray to God that everything turns out better for the world.
The up and down price of eggs has been an inflation touchstone for months. Checking Wall Street, right now the Dow is down 53 points. The S&P is down 21. NASDAQ off 100. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Wesley is a truck driver.
I drive a truck, and I love what I do.
A truck driver with IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Quite a few letters in the mail. They were talking about wage garnishment, coming after my house, my car. Yeah, they don't play around. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
One sleepless night, Wesley finally made a call to Optima Tax Relief at 2 a.m.
Kind of figured figured I'd get a machine, but I didn't. I actually got to talk to an actual person in the middle of the night.
He found just what he was looking for.
Oh, they were great people. You need a team of people that know what they're doing. Optima Tax, they know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Happy don't even come close. I was absolutely overjoyed.
Take Wesley's advice.
If you're in any kind of trouble with the IRS, call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
This update is brought to you by M.J. Thomas Jewelers. Discover the unmatched elegance of gold jewelry at M.J. Thomas Jewelers in Stratford. Visit M.J. Thomas Jewelers in-store or online at mjthomas.com, helping Stratford sparkle since 1976. State Republicans introduced a new tax cut yesterday at an address to business and community organizations in Waterbury that was also attended by Governor Lamont. This proposed tax cut is in advance of the governor's unveiling of the new state budget today at noon. State Senator Ryan Fazio outlined a funding plan that would initially draw down recently discovered interest from federal pandemic relief dollars and freeze state employee salaries. Fazio said the combined savings would fund a tax cut that could save the average family $500. The flu is running rampant throughout Connecticut, and the CDC has ranked flu activity in the state as very high. Last week, the Connecticut Department of Public Health recorded over 3,700 cases, the highest amount this season. The flu is not the only virus affecting Connecticut residents either. COVID, RSV, and norovirus cases are also rising. For the Voice of Connecticut WICC, I'm John Kamal.
Attorney, advocate, author, public speaker. The Lisa Wexler Show. Flip that switch and turn on your brain. Here is Lisa Wexler.
And welcome to the show. Senator Chris Murphy, among many others, yesterday at a meeting, at a protest gathering in front of the Treasury Department, very, very, very heated words about the news that we received that Elon Musk's Doge had taken over very sensitive data of thousands and thousands of United States Treasury Department employees. And also a lot of allusions to the fact that Elon Musk had a bunch of very, very young, inexperienced by definition, people, and who knows about their own security clearances, that were accessing personal human resources, social security number, salary, address, phone number, data belonging to so many different federal employees. And it was got to be a very heated rally. Elizabeth Warren was there. Ayanna Pressley was there. Some of the representatives started cursing, using words like BS. And we're trying to get the clip. Christian, just raise your hand when you think you have it. But we're trying to get Chris Murphy, who said, quote, "We don't pledge allegiance to the billionaires or to the creepy 22-year-olds working for Elon." So a bill is in the works right now in the Senate trying to prevent unlawful access to the Treasury's payment systems. You know, maybe too late. I mean, the Pandora's box has been open. And, you know, a lot of this is going to come in front of judges. But there is a tremendous amount of consternation. Chuck Schumer was on TV last night trying to lead the charge in protest. The Democrats are very upset. They're just very, very upset about the things that the Trump administration is doing, which they see as a unilateral taking of authority that is in untested waters. And what they're trying to do, what the Trump administration is trying very hard to do, is very dramatically cut the size of the federal workforce. They are not the first administration to try, but the last time it was tried in earnest was during the Clinton presidency of 1992 to 1993, when Al Gore tried to do the same thing. He did it differently, and then they weren't such, you know, shocking, alarming kinds of things. We're taking the keys, and you can't come in the building. But they tried, and they failed. And so the Trump administration believes it has a mandate, if nothing else, to cut the size of the federal workforce. So last night they issued pink slips to everybody in the CIA. Everybody in the CIA. Everybody in this. It's shocking, right? Everyone in an organization, whether you're a good or a bad employee, a good or a bad spy, you have an opportunity. You can take a whole bunch of paid leave and get out. Or maybe you can stick around, but you've got to show up to work more. You know, the estimates are that only 6%, I've seen it as high as 10. Let's say it's 10% of the federal government is showing up to work every day. after COVID, really a sea change in the federal government, also in the private sector, but in the government, a sea change. And I know we've had calls that the same thing has happened in our state government. I don't know that I've seen a report that really tracks what percentage of state employees are no longer coming in every day or even 3 days a week or 4 days a week. But in the federal government, they did assemble this data, and it was frankly shocking to the average person that all that work could get done by staying home. Federal government arguing, I suppose, that it is getting done. I mean, some of the complaints are hysterical. One person complaining, I can't believe you're going to make me do a commute to work. But the thing is, when you got hired, you knew that that was like what you had to do to earn a paycheck. Like you had to go to work. It's almost like they forgot that you had to typically, for most of world history, go to work to collect a paycheck, be among your peers, have people look over your shoulder, take a walk for lunch, excuse yourself for a personal phone call, but basically be in a focused environment where everybody was trying to do the same thing. And you could also learn from others at the same time, and young people could learn from others how to do the job. How are we going to have young people know how to do anything when everybody's working from home? You can't. It's not fair. It's not fair to the young people. And we're going to suffer for it because they're going to not be so young soon. They're going to be older. They're going to take positions of authority, and they're not going to have had the experience or know-how. And who's that going to hurt? It's going to hurt the rest of us. 203-333-9422. I really understand. I'm not saying whether I believe in it or not. I understand the commandment to show up to work. I get it. I get it. I do. There is something qualitatively different, and you get to nurture the culture among your own organization when people show up in the office. You just do. And obviously, it depends upon what your job is. If you can get your job done, I suppose, and you don't need anybody else, maybe there's an argument to be made. But as a culture, Jeff Bezos felt very strongly Amazon was one of the first. You want to work for Amazon? I don't care if you're in tech. I don't care if you're used to having your nap in the middle of the day. Too bad. You got to show up. Got to show up every day. Not 3 days a week, not 2 days a week, every day. 203-333-9422. Okay, coming up in just a few minutes, we are going to hear from Jerusalem, CBS correspondent, just to catch you up in case you missed it, at an Oval Office meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and then a press conference that followed thereafter. President Donald Trump said that Palestinians had no alternative but to leave their homes in Gaza, and later said the U.S. could take control of the Gaza Strip, saying the whole thing is a mess. I think that Gaza has been very unlucky for them, meaning the people who live there. They've lived like hell. They've lived like you're living in hell. Gaza is not a place for people to be living. This is what Donald Trump said. The only reason they want to go back, and I believe this strongly, is they have no alternative. What's the alternative? Go where? If they had an alternative, they'd much rather not go back to Gaza and live in a beautiful alternative that is safe. So President Trump has asked the presidents of Egypt and the King of Jordan to take in the Gazans. Thus far, it's been a non-starter. They don't want them. And remember, Egypt is on the other border of Gaza. That's the geography. And Jordan is 75% Palestinian people. It's only 25% the Hashemite people that represent the monarchy there. 75% are Palestinian themselves. So it's the same people. So it's a natural, you would think. They're relatives. They're brethren. No, they don't want them. They don't want them. They don't want them. And you know that Donald Trump is first and foremost a real estate developer, right? You know that. He can envision the rubble turning into some beautiful high-rise hotels, some magnificent apartment buildings. His father, Fred Trump, responsible for building an immense amount of the Bronx. You know that, right? And a bunch of Queens. An immense amount. Fred Trump, like LeFrak, was known as LeFrak City. These were the builders after post-World War II. They knew how to build hundreds, thousands of multifamily apartments that still stand, for better or for worse, in the New York City skyline. They're still there. That's what Trump sees. He sees cleaner, better, newer, and waterfront. He sees, waterfront condos. Now, to the Gazan people, that's another story. And how do you eradicate the generations of hatred, the generations of brainwashing that these people have been fed, that the children have been fed, about the evilness of Jews and the evilness of Israelis and the evilness of Zionists? How do you eradicate that with one fell swoop? I don't know. But I do know that Donald Trump knows how to shake things up. So we're going to be right back. We're going to hear from CBS correspondent in Jerusalem about what's going on there as they are reacting to President Trump's astounding press conference last night.
You've got your favorite websites that you check out each and every day. But if you want Southern Connecticut's news and information leader, set your browser to our new site, voiceofct.com. You'll be able to stream all of your favorite WICC local talk shows. Check out our podcasts, win contests, find out about local events, sign up for our email newsletter, and so much more. It's the best way to stay informed in Fairfield County. Just bookmark us, voiceofct.com.
Tune in to the Lisa Wexler Show from 10 a.m. to noon and listen for The Doctor is In, your chance to ask prominent doctors from Northwell Health your questions on everything from bariatric surgery, cancer treatment, cardiovascular disease, gamma knife and robotic surgery, and more. Listen for behind-the-scenes, in-depth discussions with Lisa Wexler and the area's top doctors. Aside from treatment options, being informed is the best weapon against illness or disease. You might not know the best questions to ask, but Lisa Wexler does, and she'll ask them during The Doctor is In.
So COPD has two components, and both are related to smoking and air pollution and environmental exposure. If it affects the lung units, what we call alveoli, then that's what we call emphysema. And this is in our effort at Northwell regarding the COPD initiative to start screening them for COPD because, yes, it's true. We're not diagnosing most of the patients that have COPD.
The Doctor is In with Lisa Wexler, featuring prominent doctors from Northwell Health.
Are you looking for a school for your child with a learning challenge? Winston Preparatory School is a leading school network for students with learning disabilities, including dyslexia, ADHD, and nonverbal learning disorders. Learn more about Winston Prep's highly individualized learning programs in Connecticut, Long Island, and New York that will help your child thrive. Visit winstonprep.edu for more information and schedule an in-person visit for a campus closest to you today.
Selling your home is a numbers game. The more potential buyers who see it, the greater the opportunity to sell. And when your home is listed on Smart MLS, more than 21,000 realtors see it, and so do all their buyers. Suddenly, the number of people looking at your home starts to grow by a lot. More realtors sharing your listing, more people seeing your home, more offers coming in, and maybe even more cash in your pocket. Smart move, right? Ask your realtor. Is my house on Smart MLS? Smart MLS, the smart way to sell your home.
Now you can find out who's under the helmet and behind the jersey with the Rudin Report Athlete Profile. High school sports are made great by the student athletes who play them. Check out the High School Athlete Profile, sponsored by BMW of Darien at therudinreport.com.
Don't miss this great Duchess deal. Enjoy not one, but 2 hot dogs with the works for just $5. Sink your teeth into a juicy Hummel hot dog grilled to plump perfection and served on a fresh roll, including mustard, sauerkraut, and relish. At Duchess, everything is made to order. That's why they say, fresh food served fast. Visit one of Duchess's 12 locations today because the 2 for $5 hot dog special ends soon. Check out DuchessRestaurants.com for a location near you.
Our financial system is cracking under pressure. Your retirement is at risk. Take control now. Lear Capital is offering a free Sky High Silver Report and Precious Metals IRA guide at BetterNestEgg.com. Don't leave your future to chance. Go to BetterNestEgg.com.
Your radio preset #1 on both AM and FM. The voice of Connecticut, WICC 600 and 95.9. Back to the Lisa Wexler Show.
And I think it's worth paying attention to this. We're talking about it. He's exploring it with his people, with his staff. I think it's something that could change history, and it's worthwhile really pursuing this avenue.
Joining us now, CBS Robert Berger, correspondent from Jerusalem, in the wake of the shocking, really earthquake-shattering idea that President Trump floated last night that the U.S. should, quote-unquote, own Gaza, whatever that means. Robert Berger, welcome to the show today. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. What does that mean, Robert Berger? What do you think that means? The United States should own Gaza.
Well, President Trump has everyone guessing, and I have to say the region is really in shock over this unorthodox proposal. I think the headline is the concern among Arab states in the region about the idea to displace or remove or expel, however you want to put it, a couple of million Palestinians to different countries. So that is something that kind of flies in the face of traditional thinking here in the region about how to resolve the Arab-Israeli conflict. All of these various countries, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, U.S. allies here in the region, saying the only way to solve this is a Palestinian state. And this idea of the U.S. owning Gaza is just ridiculous.
So let me ask you this, Robert Berger from CBS. I was watching all of these clips last night of Obama and Biden and George W. Bush talking about a safe and secure two-state solution. But, missing from the mix ever is anybody from Gaza who ever actually floats that. I mean, you're in Jerusalem. Is it realistic to even talk about a two-state solution? Is there a message for consumption by the masses and something very different by the leaders themselves?
Look, that's I think that's where Trump is going with all of this. The two-state solution idea has been around really for quite some time, 40, 50 years, who knows. I mean, it took on a lot of weight after the Oslo Accords in 1993, but it's been around longer than that, but it hasn't worked. And I think what a lot of people don't realize when you talk about the two-state solution is what a small piece of land we're talking about here. It's the size of New Jersey, where you have these two peoples trying to create two states. So I think Trump is offering a different idea. It has not gotten a good reception, though. Although I would say in Israel, the Israelis are much more open to it than the Arabs are.
Of course they are. Could you imagine from an Israeli point of view to have a friendly nation on one of its borders? They've never had that.
Right. Well, there is a piece with Jordan, and Egypt. I don't know if you would say friendly.
I would say it's cold, but it's there, and it's
cold
okay.
Piece, right?
Right.
Yeah,
but it's not friendly. They've never had a friendly, an ally.
No, and it's gotten much more unfriendly since October 7th and the war. That's a good point. But again, it takes two to tango. It's hard to imagine this idea actually happening, removing, Trump used the term 1.7 million people to move them out of Gaza. But maybe it's a starting point in negotiations, kind of like what we saw with the tariffs.
That's my point, Robert. That's what I said in the last hour. He makes these outlandish statements, and then he declares a win because there's some kind of a compromise or concession that he wouldn't otherwise get.
Yeah, I think that's what he's trying to do. And so then, right now, as I said, the Arab world is in shock about this. But then maybe you come back with a counterproposal, which they wouldn't have accepted at the time. And that when they compare it to this idea, they say, well, okay, that's not so bad.
That's right. That's right. Which is a pretty brilliant negotiating posture and not something we're used to seeing from our U.S. presidents. He's a pretty ballsy guy. He really is. Got to hand it to him that way. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, the Israelis certainly, he's very popular in Israel. But again, I think this is seen as a pro-Israel proposal. It makes it easier for Netanyahu to come to his right-wing constituents and government, people that are actually threatening to withdraw over this, the ceasefire deal and say, hey, look, that we have a really good friend in the White House. Let's go along with his ideas.
Robert Berger from CBS. Keith Siegel came back. Keith Siegel is an American as well as an Israeli. And that's where I'm sure people are very grateful for that. Where are we in terms of the ceasefire and further hostages to be released?
Yeah, so 18 have been released so far in the ceasefire. That's maybe almost 3 weeks old, which is pretty good. It's gone according to plan so far. Saturday, there's supposed to be an additional release of several hostages, probably 3, in exchange for a couple of hundred Palestinian prisoners. The question is, though, they're starting negotiations on the second phase. This is a 6-week ceasefire, and there's a second phase that's supposed to see the release of the remaining hostages. Trump's proposal here could complicate those negotiations.
And what about the babies and the mommy? The family.
Well, the father came back, and the fate of the mother and the 2 kids, one was a baby at the time, and is unknown, but they're believed to be dead. Hamas says they're dead. Israel fears that they're dead, but there hasn't been a final confirmation of that. They're supposed to, at least their bodies, if they're not alive, would come back sometime in the next few weeks.
And that will likely be the next, from Israel's point of view, they want the bodies, right? From families' point of view.
So, of the 33 that are due to be released during this 6-week ceasefire, 18 have been freed. So that leaves 15, of whom only 7 are believed to be alive, and the other 8 are dead. But of course, the families want to at least get back the bodies and be able to give them a proper burial here in Israel.
Thank you very much, CBS correspondent Robert Berger, directly from Jerusalem. We really appreciate the update. Thank you so much.
All right.
Sure. 203-333-9422 is our number. You can call me at 203-333-9422. So let's breathe a little bit. Let's open up the phones. What do you think of President Trump's idea last night? What do you think? Do you think that it's a negotiating posture? Do you think it's appealing? Do you think it's ethnic cleansing? Ethnic cleansing, which is an ugly, ugly word used typically for people that were killed, like Rwanda with the Hutu uprising and the Jews during the Holocaust from Germany. But it's also been defined, if you look at it at Wikipedia, which I have, ethnic cleansing is also a definition of one whole people being expelled from another place. So is that what this is? Is this an appealing idea for Gazans to perhaps temporarily relocate and then come back, but come back to a better place? Is it something that you think will have any lasting impact on the negotiations themselves? Do you like the idea of it being creative? What do you think about this? 203-333-9422. You can call me at 203-333-9422. But in the meantime, stateside, let's remember that we've got confirmations that are going. Bobby Kennedy coming out of committee. We have Linda McMahon, who looks like she's going to be an easy one, a layup for Department of Education, even though today it came out that some words to the effect that Donald Trump said that he hopes that Linda McMahon will work her way out of a job. He's not that thrilled about having a Department of Education altogether. Frankly, I doubt she'll do that. I think she'll just be very, very careful about the way the money is spent. Donald Trump issuing an 11th hour plea, hoping that he's going to get his own Bobby confirmed because he came out of committee, but there still has to be a big vote. Let's go to Bill from Norwalk. Hi, Bill. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Commenting about this entire proposal by the president, he does come out with some radical statements. And initially, I thought it was just total blustering and craziness. But the one comment he made that was accurate is that whatever they've been doing for the last 4 or 5 decades or more, it has just not worked. And if anything, contributed to what happened on October 7th, which can never happen again, and contributed to Iran and other bad actors, let's say, getting in there. Now, we, the United States, are not perfect. We sometimes get our hands dirty and put it where they shouldn't be. But let's get, I believe, if he gets a coalition together and gets the Arab nations involved, making it, let's say, the French Riviera would be tremendous opportunities for the Palestinians, their children, their children's children, to have a viable future. And once that's in place, then I think they would certainly not want any terrorist, actors in that area to ruin what they create, because that would be a tremendous, I think, income producing and wealth producing over time. So yes, they'll have a stake in it, but it has to be different than whatever we've done in the past. Because just putting aid in there, a lot of it, I don't know percentage-wise how much, is going to go back to the terrorists, to Hamas, to the bad actors that get in there, and it just won't get to the people.
So basically, Bill, you and I can agree, I think the world with open eyes has to agree, that the premise of what Donald Trump said, which is nothing has worked so far, is a true statement, right? It's a true statement. Nothing has worked so far there. The people have been kept in a cycle of poverty and hatred. Israel keeps erecting walls to protect itself. And yet there are still these terribly, dramatically horrible wars that go on among the people. So thus far, whatever's been there hasn't really worked. So you're saying, Bill, that while you thought that Trump was just sort of exaggerating and blustering, now upon second thought about thinking about it, you don't think it's such a bad idea? Is that what you're saying?
It's not saying so much it's not a bad idea, but the proposal to do something radically different is a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, let's just use to make Palestine great again, let's say, to get it out of the poverty that it's had all these decades, to get it out. How many billions of dollars has the Arab world put into that, legitimately, to rebuild hospitals and schools, etc.? And I'm sure
actually very little. Most of the money has come from the United States. Actually,
but they've put money into it. But a lot of whatever they've put in, most of it gets siphoned off.
Yes, it does.
By the terrorists.
Yes,
how did they build all those tunnels?
300 miles of tunnels in a tiny, tiny, tiny place. 300 miles back and forth and around.
About how much the infrastructure that was created there below ground, it should have been going above ground.
Yes.
So something has to be done, and I don't think it's in any way ethnic cleansing. I would dismiss that 100%, because if anything, the bad actors, whether it was Hamas, whatever, and maybe the president of the company, maybe he had no choice but to go along with it. Otherwise, he's going to be killed. I don't know. But the point I'm trying to make, I believe that there has to be a better way to do it. Let's get a coalition of countries in there and map out the best way to do it, but certainly not to consider it as ethnic cleansing.
Okay.
We need to cleanse that area of what we have right now, which is rubble, unexploded munitions, and then how do we rebuild it? And rebuild it such that it's good for the Palestinian people. We give them a trade. We give them tourism. I think there could be a win-win situation there, but I would not look at it as ethnic cleansing. I think that's too...
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for the call. I get it. Well, sort of like a Marshall Plan, but, it'll obviously have to be called a Trump plan. 203-333-9422. We're going to be right back with Wayne Winston. We'll talk about the latest and what's going on in the purging of any DEI program. Stay tuned. It's not just black and white with Wayne Winston coming right up.
Want more of the Lisa Wexler Show? Follow wherever you get your podcasts.
Your business or service can reach thousands of listeners with The Lisa Wexler Show. The award-winning show is consistently ranked in the top 5 talk radio shows in Connecticut. Lisa's listeners are devoted and loyal. They should know how great your business is. Advertise on The Lisa Wexler Show. Just email Lisa at voiceofct.com. That's Lisa at voiceofct.com. The Lisa Wexler Show. If you're thinking about it, Lisa's talking about it. And that includes you.
WICC 695.9. Online at thevoiceofct.com. Thanks to Fairfield University graduate and professional studies.
When Maria and baby Aliana were struggling with hunger and homelessness, they turned to Bridgeport Rescue Mission for help, and support from friends like you help continue our life-saving mission. When you give a gift today to Bridgeport Rescue Mission, you give hope and demonstrate love. And believe me, they feel it. Because of you, Maria and baby Aliana are safe and getting the help they need. Join our giving community by visiting BridgeportRescueMission.org. That's BridgeportRescueMission.org.
Connecticut Paid Leave, making time for life's most important moments.
To recover from illness or injury.
To give your employees peace of mind.
To welcome home an active duty service member.
To help a loved one get better.
To get help
for your mental health.
To welcome a new addition to your family.
To leave an unsafe home.
Learn more about accessing the benefits of Connecticut Paid Leave. Visit ctpaidleave.org.
Listen to the Frank Pepe Pizzeria Monthly Dish, a series of podcasts for Pepe's 100th celebration, 1925 to 2025. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Lisa wants to hear your opinion. 203-333-9422. Back to the Lisa Wexler Show on the Voice of Connecticut, WICC 600 and 95.9. And now, it's not just black and white with Wayne Winston. Now on the Lisa Wexler Show on WICC 600 and 95.9, the Voice of Connecticut.
Wayne Winston is here with us. Wayne, I just want to inform all that it looks like as of 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, there's an advisory of snow that's running through the day with freezing rain and ugliness and sleet throughout the day, maybe 1 to 4 inches accumulation depending upon where you are in our region. That snow system will move out by Friday. Then there looks like another one Saturday to Sunday, another one next Monday to Tuesday, and another one the following weekend. But I don't know if any of these are going to be big snows, little snows, but the bottom line is as of tomorrow morning when you wake up, you might have some snow, which means you might have a delay. Wayne Winston, welcome to the show. Well, hello. You could say that again because I just put you back on mic.
Well, all righty then.
Hi. All right. So it's been a big week.
Yes, it has.
And I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the press conference last night. We've been speaking about that a lot, but we can move to other things. What is it that you would like to talk about in the way of what Donald Trump has done since he became president that you think is most urgent right now on your mind?
You know, everybody has things that they feel some kind of way about that strike them a certain way. Obviously, the issue that's going on with the Palestinians, I mean, if they have to ask the Palestinians how they feel about it, I mean, I think they should be able to weigh in. You know, we're going to move you.
They're going to end up weighing in. I have no doubt.
That's a good idea. You know, hey, this is where we're going to put you, though. You know, I'm just letting you know.
Well,
it's going to be the time
Egypt
of your
doesn't
life.
want you.
Well,
they're your neighbor on the other side of Gaza.
Sure. And,
Jordan doesn't want you,
right.
And 75% of Jordan are your people.
Well, you know,
3 out of 4 people in Jordan are Palestinians, and they don't want you either.
Well, you know, we do have these demographics say, listen, I don't want you. We got some people out in the Midwest say, well, I don't know if I want the New Yorkers moving. I mean, so based upon who those people are and how they think, it can easily turn into something larger. And, you know, look, the majority of Palestinians are not Hamas. You know, I feel sorry for the folks that are caught in the middle.
Do you know that to be true when you say that, or do you just believe that to be true? Like, do you want to believe that to be true? Well,
I haven't seen anything that said the vast majority of the children and the women, et cetera, you know, what did was horrific. Okay, there's no question about that.
No, but I'm just saying when you say that they're not Hamas,
yes,
Hamas actually was so friendly with UNRWA that UNRWA was where the hostages were actually kept.
Understood.
Al Jazeera reporters were keeping some hostages.
Understood.
Those are everyday people, right?
Yes.
I'm not talking about children. Children are just being brainwashed no matter where they are. I would never talk about children. The adults that originally chose who they were going to have govern them, I mean, this was almost 20 years ago now, they chose Hamas. They could have chosen the Palestinian Authority. And when Hamas got elected, they threw people from the buildings from the Palestinian Authority to deter any further dissidents in their region. I just don't know that we know what the average person in Gaza wants, because what we see on TV are throngs of thousands of people that gather in public spaces that shout the most heinous, horrible slogans against Israel and Jews. So I don't really know that that's true, Wayne, unfortunately.
Well, I understand, and I guess we'd have to send them a poll or something, you know, hey, do you support? But I can say that I personally don't believe the majority. I know they have probably more than most based upon what's going on. But, I mean, the majority, you know, like 80% of them support hating Jews. I mean, again.
They do. That's what they say. That's what the polls are.
That's what they believe, then okay.
But they've been maybe brainwashed or whatever, but that is what they believe.
And I think what happened is all of these years of war, you know, have kind of created this whole conflict that, you know, and there's all kind of wacky stuff because it's not a new war. Biblically, it's been going on forever, and it's just the matter the weapons change and regimes change. I just don't know that it's like, let's take them and let's build up something for the Mediterranean there. It'll be a great looking place. Maybe
no,
we
I
can
hear
come
what
back
you're
and visit.
saying. I just think that the premise that you stated that the majority of them are not with Hamas may not in fact be true. And if they are with Hamas, that's a very real issue.
If they are, 1,000%, I'm with you.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that expelling them from their land is a solution either. That's what I'm saying. I don't really know what the solution is. I do know that President Trump says things that are outlandishly shocking and very often forces people to consider a worst case scenario. And then people concede things that they otherwise might not concede because he utters something that was so unimaginable to them a second before.
Well, yeah, I think everything is part of his master plan. I think he wants to make the whole world his real estate empire. I'm going to go over to Greenland, and if you guys don't want to play with ball with me, I have an idea. I want to put a great winter wonderland over there. And, in fact, you're a part of the United States. You're part of our security. Now, if you don't agree with that, you do need us. He said.
But he got a win this week, didn't he?
Yeah. Well,
the Danish people came to him and said you can expand the American military presence there.
Which is a good thing.
Right.
But you can't own us, okay? You
right.
can't.
That's what I'm saying. So he says the outlandish thing,
mm-hmm.
and then he gets a concession.
Well, you have to, because these guys, you guys got the sticks and the guns and the nuclear weapons. What are you going to tell him? Come get us. I mean, we'll take it. I believe he'll take it. And that's part of what the problem is. I think some of the negotiations and the things that came out, one, you have them stop and quote DEI.
Yeah.
And then they're banning teaching about the Black history and the military contributions.
And it is Black History Month. Let's acknowledge that. It's February.
Sure. And he just defunded every single program, no matter who it was, whether it's Jewish, whatever else. No funds will go to anything like that, quote, DEI. And the crazy.
Let's talk about the acknowledgement of Black History Month and the fact that he doesn't want any, and I saw this with the military. I don't know if it's in every thing, but I definitely saw it in the military. Let's debate it. Should taxpayer funds go toward recognizing Black History Month as an event within our federal government? Let's talk about it.
Well, there's a federal government. That's like anything else, okay? Meaning you got Martin Luther King Day, and we fought for Martin Luther King Day. That didn't come easy. In fact, in Connecticut, we had one of the last cities in the state, up around Middletown, they were not trying to honor Martin Luther King Day. I mean, they had the whole hoods and everything out there. The traditional extortionists and blackmailers of black people are the KKK. That's where they came from. They're not selling cookies. That's what they were there for from the beginning. So in 1863, the Klan was founded, and they had one job, and that job was to make sure that black people stayed in line. And if they didn't, we have that history that came after that was bloody and horrible. And we got up into the 60s, and about the closest thing we got to any type of, support or any type of financial opportunity was affirmative action, end quote, DEI, which is basically saying, give us the same opportunities you give everybody else.
So on January 31st, Trump issued a slew of executive orders. And this is according to NBC News. Mm-hmm. The Defense Intelligence Agency ordered a pause of all activities and events related to Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Black History Month, Juneteenth, LGBTQ Pride Month, Holocaust Remembrance Day, and other quote-unquote special observances to comply with President Donald Trump's executive order. The memo listed 11 observances that are now banned and said that all affinity groups and employee networking groups are immediately on pause. When asked about the rationale for the memo, a spokesperson said the agency is working with the Department of Defense to fully implement the executive orders. So it didn't give you really the rationale for why they're doing it anyway. But they are the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, which, by the way, Tulsi Gabbard just came out of committee, and her nomination is going to be on the floor soon, issued written guidance to employees saying that DEI-related boards and working groups have been curtailed. No official work time or workspaces should be used for DEI-related activities, and future travel related to the activities has also been canceled. So let's have the debate. Do you think that work hours and workspaces should have been devoted to these observances to begin with.
I don't think it's anything new. I mean, it's been happening.
I know that
forever.
but he wants to now not have it happen. So, on the merits, should employees that work for the Department of Transportation or Energy or Education be entitled to, on their working day, create these observances? Do we want our employees to be paying for that? Do we think that that's in our interest? Is that a good thing? What do we think?
Well, we're not just talking about something subjective. He cut off funding for all of that across the country. So the ability for people to celebrate those things in our community does and needs, federal funding. Our tax dollars go to
I'm not talking about the federal funding of it for programming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the fact that the employees. So let's say the employees wanted to celebrate Black History Month in a Department of Education, and they wanted to have a lunch, and they wanted to cater it, and they wanted to spend an hour talking about Black History Month. They can't do that anymore. Query, should they always have been able to do it?
Yes, I think celebrating the differences, the different nationalities, the different origins that we have in this country are important because this country has been known for discriminating.
But should they have been able to do it at work? We know they can do it not at work.
Well,
should they have been able to do it while they were getting a paycheck at work?
Yes, they should. Because, again, all these things are about our tax dollars. If you were to take a poll, I think, in America and say, do you want to not have any of these things observed? Do you want the government to not, quote, pay for them? Because that's really what we're talking about. Are they going to pay for them? What's the thing behind it? Out of all of the things that you have an executive order for, what difference would that make that we are celebrating a holiday, whether it's Holocaust Remembrance Day, which I think is very important. I think it's important that we have the people who are the least of us, do that, Columbus Day, et cetera. I mean, so I don't see why that was even necessary to do.
Well, they already have a day off for national holidays. So Martin Luther King Jr. Day, obviously they're off on the 15th. This was about taking work time to, celebrate and commemorate and learn and whatever. And they can't do it anymore.
And that's the key. I've always said that if you're going to look at people equally, it has to be purposeful. We live in silos in our communities.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not living in Bridgeport, or New Haven or Hartford, you really don't interact very much with people of color. Those times that you have when you're in the cities, that's the time you interact with them. If you're in New York, once you get into like Harrison and all that kind of, the majority of people of color are in major cities. When you go out to the Midwest, same thing. Once you get out of Las Vegas, et cetera, we have to be able to reach each other so that we keep the humanity between one another. Because what I see through these things that he's doing, even cutting funding for SNAP benefits, I mean, we have plenty of money to build nuclear weapons and we'll do whatever else.
Well, he's saying he's not doing that yet, for the record. He's not doing that yet. It may come in the next budget. So what I'm hearing you say, we're chatting with Wayne Winston, is that because we live in silos, right, in terms of the people we choose to socialize with and our families and whatnot, workplace isn't that, and therefore that's a very useful, important place to be having these observances because that's how we learn from each other about what's important to each other. Is that
Absolutely.
what you're saying?
Because they fund other stuff. If you have a speaker come in and, they're going to talk about whatever the company is working on, okay, they pay for that. I mean, that doesn't come out of their personal pockets. So what they're saying, if you're dealing with anything that has to do with, quote, educating and dealing with the, quote, woke, because that was part of what he's been saying.
That is what it is.
He's saying
he's very consistent.
Woke, it's woke, okay, and for us, woke means you understand that there's a problem out there that we need to deal with when it comes to how we look at things racially. So we see a lot of, as black people, and when I say brown, I mean that's Latinos, Indian, that we see that there's something different going on towards us because that was not a necessary thing for anybody that was within those things for celebration.
We'll be right back with Wayne Winston. It's not just black and white. You're welcome to be part of the conversation. We're talking about the dismantling of DEI in the federal workplace at 203-333-9422. We'll be right back.
For much more from The Lisa Wexler Show, follow and listen to her daily podcast.
At Bender, we make your bathroom remodel a luxurious experience. Explore our curated selection of tile, stone, decorative hardware, cabinetry, sinks, and bathtubs. Bender consultants will help you create a beautiful retreat, all under one roof. For a limited time, mention The Lisa Wexler Show for an exclusive friends and family discount. Visit our Norwalk or New Haven showrooms today. And don't forget to mention The Lisa Wexler Show. Bender, a Connecticut fixture since 1946.
This is your Optimum Weather Update. Today, expect mostly sunny skies with highs in the low to mid 30s and temperatures drop into the 20s later on. Tomorrow, there's a chance of a few inches of snow or icy mix depending on where you are during the midday. Temperatures bounce around the low to mid 30s. This report powered by Optimum Business. Take your business to the next level with Optimum Business Essentials. Get reliable, secure internet connection backup and business phone all for just $90 a month. Visit Optimum.com/business or call 855-2-OPTIMUM today.
No part of your home is more important than the roof over your head. Hi, I'm Eddie Griffin, the owner of Brown Roofing, your local expert for roof replacement and roof repair. Water resistant, weather resistant, wind resistant, our products offer superior protection that come with a 50-year lifetime transferable warranty. Call us today at 475-445-1195 or visit us at brownroofing600.com. Brown won't let you down.
Back to the news and talk. Thanks to Smart MLS. Smart sellers ask, is my home on Smart MLS? The voice of Connecticut. WICC 695.9. It's the Lisa Wexler Show.
And by the way, we're on Twitch and YouTube today. Very exciting. Wayne Winston in studio with us, not just black and white. You can call me at 203-333-9422. It is true, Wayne, that Donald Trump, if one thing he does is he keeps his promises. And one of the promises he made in black and white was that he was going to try and eradicate what he considered to be the woke movement everywhere and anywhere that he could. And that meant beginning with DEI on college campuses. He has been telling college campuses that if they have people that have been promoting violence in the wake of a tremendous resurgence of anti-Semitism on college campuses, and these people are not here legally to begin with, or they're under student visa kind of things, and they're violating the requirements of their visa, that they're out. And apparently at least one person is on her way out, I understand. But within the federal government, getting a lot of notice for insisting it is Black History Month, it is February, that any expressions of observance of a list of 11 different observances, which include Juneteenth, which is a national holiday now, Martin Luther King Day, which is another national holiday, Black History Month, which is a time period to focus on Black history, that all of that be eradicated from the workday in place. Wayne, let me go to a call.
Sure.
Henry from the Valley, hello, you're welcome. You're on the air with Wayne Winston and myself. Hi. Hi, Henry, you there? Okay. Christian, I can't get Henry. Henry, you there? Let's try it again. I don't know. There you go. Hi, Henry, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
How are you today?
Welcome. Henry. You're on the air with Wayne. Hi.
This is going to be quick. What Trump is doing, and I don't think it's any kind of conspiracy, he has to maintain that the tax rate on those over 400,000, whatever number. In order to meet that, because we have to balance, make our payment, whatever. You know, the government shuts down every 3 months or 6 months. Well, I think it's in March. And in order for him to do that without raising even 4 or 5% on those, let's call them rich, he has to cut back in areas. Otherwise, they would have to force them. When I say force them, I mean people like the Federal Reserve, the real owners. They would say, you've got to...
Henry, what's your point with respect to DEI?
EEI?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
No, that's just another... Those are just words that he uses to arouse people. He knows how to do it.
All right, thank you, Henry.
He knows how to do it.
Thank you for
Goodbye.
the call. 203-333-9422. You can call me at 203-333-9422. Wayne, I want to ask you about this. Marco Rubio has said, he's the Secretary of State. He was, by the way, confirmed 99.
Of course.
Not even with a dissenting opinion. It's a 0 because J.D. Vance's Senate seat was empty. Okay. And he likes El Salvador's idea to jail deported U.S. citizens in an overcrowded mega prison. In other words, one of the things that Donald Trump floated in the last 48 hours is that not only will we deport illegals and send them back home, where presumably they belong, and people have to take them. So he's said, Guatemala, you have to take yours, and Venezuela, you have to take yours, and El Salvador, you have to take yours. But now he's saying, we got criminals and we're paying money for them. We're paying $40,000 a year to feed them. So let's export them. And he already brought some to Guantanamo Bay. I saw that this morning.
Yes, they did.
And now maybe even to El Salvador. What do you think about that?
Look, I think Congress and the Senate have been left out of these things, the appointments, the hearings, the whole thing. So let's be realistic. No Democrat could ever do that in the history of America without using the system. Donald just has an amazing power right now in putting in people that he has because they control the House, the Senate, the President. So whatever he wants, basically going to happen. So you may as well vote. Okay. 2, Guantanamo Bay is not like a holiday spot, and we're even finding out now as they're arresting people, they're not always these hardened criminals. So reaching out to other countries, and seeing if they'll take them back, this stuff takes a while. And if you're looking at some of the shows that CNN is showing that they're overburdened trying to deal with the people that they've arrested already, there's not enough people to do it. And I wanted to touch on DEI for 1 second.
Sure. And then we're going to go to Bill from Trumbull. Go ahead.
With DEI, the largest benefactors were women, white women in particular. The statistics bear that out. And something happened right here, factually. In the 80s, early 90s, a bunch of grants came out for DEI, which came from the action. There were construction companies here, some very large ones that are around today. They went, and they were already successful. They went and registered their businesses in the names of their wives or someone that worked for them, and they were able to get that money. The majority of black people in this country, in the Bridgeport area, because there's limits to how much that you can cover when you're in a construction business, as an example. There's only so much you can cover based upon how much success you've had entering the business, et cetera. Now, these businesses have been around 10, 15 years, very successful. They pull that DEI money into them.
You're saying, and what was called was an MBE, a Minority Business Enterprise. I know this quite well. And in fact, the women's, what is it called? The Women's Business Development Corporation.
There's a couple of them.
They
apply for the grants
they apply for grants, and they do this with women, and they do this for women, women trying to start entrepreneurial businesses. But what you're saying is that to take advantage of the 10% set aside that was in all federal contracts, you had to be minority business enterprise. And to be a minority didn't necessarily mean black. It also meant woman, because women historically were also underrepresented as contractors for the federal government. So what you're saying is that a recent study showed that the women didn't really own and run their businesses. They were just in name only. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I know people over at the DMV, they were calling around going like, hey, this is a construction company. Everybody knows.
But there were also some people taken on that were black as partners in order to be the face of a minority business enterprise that also may not have actually owned or run that business too in order to get advantage of that. I know about that.
So that's what I'm saying.
But whenever you do a set aside, you're going to have some people try and finagle. You know that.
Yes, but it didn't go for the purpose it was, because in the end, the generational wealth that was denied was black people. When they added the other people, it just opened the door to something else. And absolutely, we know that women had a problem here in this country, but that was supposed to be just that little piece that said, okay, we realize we deprived you of all of these things throughout the years, black people.
I wonder if they're going to still do that. That's been in the law for like 50 years.
Well, that's why if he gets what he does, that's not going to happen anymore either. He wants to eliminate that. I mean, this
But I wonder if he can, because minority business enterprise, I don't know that was exclusively a presidential thing. I wonder if that was a congressional thing, too.
He wants to kill all that. He's said it on more than one occasion. There's so much stuff that's going on out there. Banning packages from China today. They had to go
saw that,
back
and then
on
they
it.
had to reverse that with the U.S. Post Office because people freaked out.
It's like, dude.
I need my Temu.
Hey, listen,
basically.
you and everybody else.
Right? I'm just saying, that's what people were like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I can't get my, sweatshirt or whatever it is I ordered today?
And that's a whole wealth generator, Temu. You can put your own stuff, but their
Can you
prices
really?
are incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, they have those little side third-party things that they can
Unbelievable.
do. Yeah.
Like
So,
TikTok.
Yes, it is.
They understand, the Chinese, that the human impulse to make money, the human quest to make money, it's so ironic because they call themselves communists. My friend from China who grew up there, who hates communist China more than anyone because he was in a slave labor camp for 20 years, he says that it's so ironic that China calls itself communist when the Chinese culture, in his opinion, his words, is so much about greed and money. It's all about greed and money.
Just like here.
And exactly. Well, that's the point. They know how to talk to us.
Oh, yeah.
They said, we'll do you one better, Facebook. You want to have a lot of followers? We'll pay you for your followers. Facebook just wants you to have the followers so they have it on Instagram. TikTok says the more people that look at you, we'll pay you for that because you help us. Nobody said they were dumb.
No,
you could
not.
say a lot of things, but not dumb. Wayne Winston, thanks as always for being with us on a Wednesday. We'll see you next Wednesday. After that, I'm going to Thailand.
Oh, yes. And Rita, tomorrow will be at Westport.
Yep,
I'm going
at
to
the
pick
library.
Her up about
7 o'clock? What time does it start?
It's 7 to 8.
7 to 8 at the Westport Library.
6 to 8 Westport.
Definitely get there early.
You'll
Hear
love
about
it.
Harriet Tubman from a descendant of Harriet Tubman, Rita Daniels herself. Thank you, Wayne. We'll be back behind the mic tomorrow.
And maybe we'll find if we are.
WICC Bridgeport, WFOX Southport, WEBE HD2 Westport, WPLR HD2 New Haven, locally owned by Connoisseur Media.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Steve Kathan. Pushback in Washington. A rally over the Elon Musk effort, backed by President Trump, to shut down the U.S. Agency for International Development, a distributor of American humanitarian aid around the world. Maryland Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen.
He does not get to ignore the law, and we need to shut down the Musk operation.
Well, CBS's Cammie McCormick on the latest developments.
Nearly all USAID staff will be placed on leave Friday. All overseas missions have been ordered to shut down and all staff recalled. The agency is developing a plan with the State Department to pay for the return of personnel posted outside the U.S. Some could return on military aircraft.